Michael J., March 1, 2025. And the White House is whitewashing the meeting with Zelenskyy the day prior. Starting, here's one with Scott Bessent. You know, it's unfortunate. All Mr. Zelenskyy wants is security agreements. If he's going to give up resources to finance his position against Russia, and he's got to give up $500 billion. And he can't get a security agreement? Now, here's the other thing, and why he's asking for a security agreement. Back in 1990s, a guy like Bill Clinton said, you disarm your nuclear weapons, and the United States of America will give you a guarantee, a security guarantee. 2014 happens. Putin invades Crimea, takes over Crimea. There's a Donbass war that's been going on since then. Georgia, 2014 or earlier. A good portion of that's taken over. So, the U.S. guarantees actually really mean nothing. But anyways, let's get to the point of this video here now. And that is, what are we looking for? Here we go. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. Now, he claims he goes to Ukraine to get a deal. And they get in heated discussions. They sort all this stuff out. Because the point of contention is, if we're going to do a minerals deal, Zelenskyy wants security agreements because he doesn't want to be invaded. He wants to stop it. But now you're going to see the spin from the White House. And it's really unbelievable, and it's really tragic, the fact of the matter that the White House is so aligned with the Russian nation and Vladimir Putin. I explained in my last video the ties to Putin and Trump. They're more interested in their get-go and taking care of themselves than anybody else. They don't care about the world. They don't care about their population. Doesn't matter to them. Now let's see what Mr. Bessent has to say here.
Beneficial to Ukraine, though. I understand why it might benefit the United States. But you've heard some people like Larry Summers said to me, you know, this is sort of like Versailles, except that the Germans were the aggressors in World War I. These are the victims. Why should they give up natural resources? What's wrong with that argument?
Well, look, I think Professor Summers should comment on things where he has all the facts. And this is, Versailles was debt. This is equity. We get nothing if the Ukrainian people don't get anything. It's win-win. So there is no debt component here. Many of the European loans, or much of the European aid, has come in the form of debt. Thus far, U.S. is...
What? Much of the European loans has come in as debt. We've seen this before. And these guys just keep lying over and over again. Over and over again. Like, what gives here? Why do they just keep lying about this stuff and you just buy into it? Okay?
Economic analyst Steve Ratner with charts on Ukrainian aid. So, Steve, this is something that we've been focused on for the last several days. Donald Trump throwing around that number of $350 billion. What do the numbers really look like?
He talks about $350 billion. You guys correct him every morning, and then he goes back the next day and says the same thing. So I don't know. We'll try some charts and see if that helps. But before I get to that, let me just say something underscoring what I heard earlier at the top of the show. The idea that we are effectively asking our ally, who was attacked, to pay the equivalent of the reparations that we asked Germany to pay in World War I is kind of mind-boggling. We're here to help these people, not get money back. And as the British Prime Minister said, it is not correct to say all of the European money is loans. There may be some loans in there, but most of it, just like us, is aid. But in any event, here are the numbers. Once and for all, maybe Donald Trump will pay attention today. He claims $350 billion. The actual number from the Kiel Institute Impartial Observer is $120 billion. He talks about how Europe only spent $100 billion. Actual number, $138 billion. These are the numbers once and for all as we sit here today. Now let's look at how we're doing.
So there you go. Those the real facts, not the spin that the White House wants to give you. Not the White House spin. Now here, Macron was at the White House a few days ago, and he's going to correct Trump again. Like, watch this. These are the facts. You can witness this firsthand.
So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia will have paid for that.
If you
This is my
believe
wish.
that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But, you know, that's
We will
only
fight
fair.
both.
Mr. President, do you think Russia should be the one that pays everybody back? Are they the aggressors?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the one to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by this attack. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear,
And they provided real money, to be clear. So that's what you get from... So this guy's lying to you. Just nothing but spin.
Is put in grants, and this is not debt. If it were debt, the Ukrainian bonds would not have been going up on the deal. So I think the Mr. Summers, Professor Summers, should maybe call me and ask for the details before commenting. You know, maybe it's a nice media line that it's Versailles, but it's just not the truth.
You also have some other responsibilities besides trying to get an economic deal in Ukraine. Let's talk a little bit of the economy. And specifically, you and I have talked before, you have as a goal, as I recall, getting the deficit down to 3% of GDP in the United States. Saying it's going to take a little time to do it, not right away. What role does revenue from tariffs play in your spreadsheet when you look at getting to that 3% number?
Good, David, that's a great question because over the coming weeks, months, as we put the budget together, your viewers are going to see lots of different nomenclature. You know, there's CBO scoring, and CBO scoring will likely not include any tariff income. And
Right, whatever you say, buddy, whatever you say. Now here's the deal. And this is why we've got an issue with any agreement with the United States of America now. This guy Trump, here he is. This is dated February the 24th, 3:25 p.m. on Twitter. Trump responding to a question on Mexico and Canada. I look at some of these agreements and I say, who would ever sign a thing like this? The tariffs will go forward, yes. We'll make up a lot of territory. Our country will be liquid and rich again. Can you believe it?
I mean, you know, who
Listen
can
to
blame
this.
them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on on manufacturing, on just about everything. Every aspect that you can imagine, they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this?
Who would ever sign those
tariffs
agreements?
will go forward, yes. And we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again. Plus, who can blame them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything. Every aspect that you can imagine, they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make.
So he looks at this agreement and said, who would ever sign a thing like that? Like, who would ever sign a thing like that? Holy crap. What do we have here? What do you mean, who would ever sign a thing like this? You're the one that signed this. This is Kuzma. The deal, original NAFTA deal, North American Free Trade Deal, and then it became the Canadian U.S.-Mexico agreement so that Trump could put his signature on it. So, there you go. There's him. Proud, he signed the deal. There's Trudeau beside him. Freeland, Minister of Finance, right behind him. Mexico, signing the deal. So the deal is signed. Mexico flag, Canadian flag, U.S. flag. So Trump signed this deal. It's supposed to come up for renegotiation in 2026. It's still 2025. And he's not honoring these agreements anymore. And then he blames other people for it. Like, now maybe you understand why Zelenskyy has an issue. Because the security guarantee Clinton gave was not honored. 2014, Crimea gets invaded. Obama didn't straighten that out. Now, Trump wanted $500 billion in rare earth minerals for what he claimed was a $350 billion advance to Ukraine, which ends up being $120 billion. And you wonder why Zelenskyy wants some guarantees. Not that they're going to mean anything in the end anyway because of this guy. Because look at this here. Now, President Donald J. Trump, this is issued on January 29, 2020, from the White House, fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump's United States-Mexico-Canada agreement delivers a historic win for American workers. So, Trump signed this deal. Something wrong here, folks. This guy, Scott Bessent,
I want to go to Washington right now to speak with a member of the Trump administration. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is standing by, and I'll hand things off to Bloomberg's David Weston, who will do the interview. David?
There we go.
For our Bloomberg audiences worldwide, I'm David Weston. I'm delighted to welcome now the U.S. Treasury Secretary. He's Mr. Scott Bessent. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. Ukraine is at the top of everyone's mind right now, and particularly the deal that you were the point person on as you went over to Kyiv to actually first present it. We all watched what happened in the Oval Office. I guess the simple question is, can this deal be saved?
Well, David, the question is which deal, the peace deal or the economic deal, because clearly it's very difficult to do.
This is where it gets a real shady, because he says which deal, the economic deal or the peace deal. They're tied into one another. These guys are trying to spin it as they're two different deals. The economic deal is tied into the peace deal.
Do an economic deal with a leader who doesn't want to do a peace deal. And I will tell you.
And now he's lying. He says Zelenskyy doesn't want to do a peace deal. He wants to do a peace deal. He doesn't want to give the resources of his country away without getting security guarantees. Anybody in their right mind would do the exact same thing. You're going to put a mortgage against your house without getting the financing guaranteed? Come on now.
I was sitting 3 away from President Trump or President Zelenskyy, and this has to be one of the great diplomatic own goals in history.
If Mr. Zelenskyy called back right now and said, I'm sorry, I want to put it back together.
Now, why would Zelenskyy got abused. And he still said, thank you for the meeting. These guys just keep sticking it to him, sticking to the rest of the world. They lie to the American people, and they lie to the rest of the world. And here you go. Number 2 liar.
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State who is in that room today, Marco Rubio. Thank you so much, Secretary Rubio, for being here. We just heard from President Zelenskyy. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see. You guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying.
You got a crystal ball that says that? You got it in writing from Putin? You're full of crap, Marco. The only reason why this war started because Putin has been working with Trump to make Biden look bad to get Trump back into power. Did it the first time. The Russian hoax was not a hoax. My last video, I shown where the connection is. These guys are full of crap.
Trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee.
And this is where the bullshit is. This economic agreement, just because it's an economic agreement, doesn't provide a security agreement. And this is where the Zelensky's right not to sign this deal. This is a bad deal. And this guy is spinning it to be a good deal. This is just tragic. It's wrong. And, I don't understand why Marco Rubio doesn't resign. This guy got no moral compass whatsoever. They claim they're trying to fight for the people of Ukraine and Russia. People are dying. But they're playing games with people's lives. They don't care about people's lives.
In its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statement.
Yeah, I'd have a real friggin' problem with that, too, because, any agreement, any security guarantee in the past, USA's reneged on it. Look at the trade deals with the United States and Mexico, the number one allies of the United States, trading partners for decades. The United States has benefited by it. Everybody's benefited by it. The fact of the matter that Trump doesn't understand how trade deficits work, you could send him to an economics class, but here's the thing. Trump, too, has set himself up in such a way that he micromanages. There's nobody there that can provide a different opinion, provide some reason and thought to have a more balanced set of policies and various other factors, and geopolitically. And you just got these cow towers. The same that 1930s Germany got. This is how 1930 Germany got started. Kowtowing. Dismantling of government agencies. Putting just yes people in top positions. It's a dangerous road you're going on. This is a dangerous road you're traveling upon.
Statements that President Zelenskyy has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington, and there was should have been.
They insisted on coming to Washington because they wanted security agreements in order to sign that. And they were prepared to do that with the security agreements. Instead, you just lied to the American people. You lied to the world. You make out like you're the good guys, and you've aligned yourself with Russia. Who would have thought Russia and the United States, along with Iran and North Korea, vote together at the United Nations? Who would have thunk in this lifetime that this was going to happen? This is amazing.
Been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work.
And so they're going to blame it on Zelenskyy. Isn't that beautiful? There's a blame it on their Vladimir Zelenskyy. Isn't this great? Isn't this great? And then you got J.D. Vance. You know, they're asking a question.
What was your second question?
My second question for President Zelenskyy now. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this.
J.D. Vance laughing away there. Who's this puppet? Is that Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, maybe? This is amazing. Why are the guy coming from a war zone? And this is how they treat this guy? This guy had to take a lot.
This country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like
yours.
Yes.
Way to go.
Better.
Well said, Mr. Zelenskyy. And that guy that asked the question deserves that. It's really sad. Now, you've got a situation now where J.D. Vance is... Well, you just got to see this.
Fire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys...
First of all, trying to litigate. This isn't litigation. This is a bullshit. This litigate... You guys are setting this guy up. You're doing it on national television for a reason, and you're not being honest with the American people. You're not being honest with the world. Now, here's J.D. Vance now. He's popping in when he shouldn't have. This is all set up.
You guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say...
You should be thanking the president.
What problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have
And do you think that it's
I will
respectful
answer.
to come to the Oval Office
I
of the
will
United
answer.
States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know that.
bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell
Now
us
watch
what we're going to
Trump's
feel.
body language. He's getting
You're
angry.
in no position
He's
to
actually going
dictate
to push
that. You're in
Zelensky
no
on the arm.
position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Anger from
We're going to
Agent
feel
Orange.
very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now
He
not in
keeps
a very
touching
good
him,
position.
which he shouldn't
You've
be doing
allowed
that.
yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about
From the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not in a
Mr.
good
Brown,
position.
I
You
was
don't have the
at-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing.
That's right. It's not a card game. You're playing with people's lives. And you're trying to screw this man and his country over so that you and Putin can benefit. Now watch this here.
For TV debacle at the White House today, where the president and Vice President J.D. Vance screamed at our ally Vladimir Zelensky and berated him with Russian government talking points. When this happened today in Washington, there's a couple things that stuck out to me. First of all, at the very start of this photo op, they had all the press in the room, Trump was asked right at the outset when he last spoke with Vladimir Putin. He said, quote, a couple of days ago, which was news because the U.S. government had said nothing about Donald Trump speaking with Vladimir Putin.
He pushes against him. This is, this is not right.
Which was news because the U.S. government had said
There you
nothing
go.
about
Touches
Donald
and
Trump
then
speaking
pushes
with
him.
Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. So that's new. He used to say, I'm not allowed to talk about that. Now he's admitting that he talks to Putin all the time, even when the U.S. government doesn't release any information about those calls like they do with all other foreign leaders. Second was the truly bizarre revelation that Russian state-controlled media, for some reason, was in the Oval Office today when this scene happened.
What? Russian state media was live streaming from the Oval Office. So now, this is your first sign that this is one of the many signs that this was a setup. They set up Zelensky, Trump, Putin working together. How'd this guy from Russian state media get into the Oval Office for this meeting and then have it go so sour? This is done on purpose. J.D. Vance, say thank you. As a matter of fact, before we get further into this aspect of things, thank you.
I thank every American family. I thank President Biden and both parties. I'm very thankful to American people. Thanks you, your team, Congress. I'd like to thank America and our partners for the support. And I'm very grateful to all Americans. We deeply appreciate that Ukraine and America have stood side by side. Thanks so much, Mr. President.
And right there, he says, thanks so much, Mr. President. Like this, thank you. This is all just a con job. It's all a setup. Poor guy's getting screwed over. Ukraine's getting screwed over by the White House and your administration. Your President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Republican Party of the Congress are screwing over their people and screwing over Ukraine for the benefit of Putin and Trump, for their imperialistic tendencies and just cash grab. It's all money.
With Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, to be clear, the Trump White House will not allow the Associated Press or Reuters into the Oval Office to cover White House events.
Yeah, so now Associated Press, been around for 100 years, is barred from these high-level meetings, and all the meetings are at the White House, and a Russian state reporter gets in there to do a live stream right to Russia.
Anymore, but somehow TASS media, Kremlin-controlled Russian state media,
Russian-controlled state media was among a group of hand-picked pool reporters present in the Oval Office. And you American people think this is acceptable behavior. You really, what is this? Do you have no moral compass? That's just a good question to ask yourself.
somehow made their way into the Oval Office for this berating of the Ukrainian president today, and Russian state media was in the Oval Office, somehow live streaming from the event. Afterwards, look at this bizarre statement from the White House, attributed to an unnamed White House official. Quote, TASS was not on the approved list of media for today.
Can you believe that? How did they get in if they're not on the approved list? How does Russian state media get into the Oval Office when they're not on the approved list?
His pool. As soon as it came to the attention of press office staff that he was in the Oval, he was escorted out by the press secretary. He is not on the approved list for the press conference.
How did he get in there to begin with?
It's not on the approved list. I have no idea how he got in there. To live stream for Kremlin-controlled.
So there you go, folks. What more can we say? What more can we say? So here's the deal. It's a setup. You're trying to rip off, well, you got to understand, 22% of the population of the United States voted this guy Trump back into power. So 22% of the population, along with Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, the Republican Party, and everybody they put in a position of power in the government, are trying to rip off everybody. It's as simple as that. You see it every day. And you let it happen. Now, on the campaign trail, I don't think you were told all these things, that we're going to align with Russia, and we're going to try and take over the Western world. We're going to take over Ukraine. So that Putin can handle Europe and Ukraine, and let Xi Jinping take care of the Pacific Rim. Nobody told you that in the campaign trail. Nobody on the campaign trail said this is what we're going to do. Tyranny is silence. Democracy is courage and a voice. You want pain and suffering? Or love, harmony, and peace? It's as simple as that. You need to make a decision. It's up to you. You go down in history one way or another. Doesn't matter which way you go. So if you're feeling like anxiety is overtaking you, you're spiraling out of control, do like what my buddies do. Send love and peace to everyone. Ciao for now. Take a nap.